But if anyone is out there, the Blazers bandwagon is wide open. We are willing and ready to accept you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Control the Narrative, a podcast where we control the narrative that the media creates. If you're new around here, subscribe to make sure you catch our weekly podcast. And if you're local around here, we appreciate you as always. As we know, the offseason is kind of coming to a close. The season is coming in, I think, a week now. They're going to start training camp. So we talk a lot about Melo on this podcast. Obviously, talk a lot about the Blazers because Melo is on the Blazers. But now we're going to talk about the Blazers from someone who knows them better than almost anybody that I know on Twitter or Instagram or any social media. Nila Madison. Nila, how's it going?
Hey, Steve. It's going great. I'm happy to be here and happy to talk Melo on Melo Monday.
Melo Monday, of course. We were just talking a little off camera, and you made a "Let Me Love You" song, and you changed the lyrics to Melo. And I swear to God, I've listened to the song a few times after, and the words are now the words that you made up. So ruining that song for me forever.
I love to hear that. Although I have to say that I didn't write that whole the hook by myself. It was another fellow diehard Blazer fan. His name is Joe, who is my friend on Blazers Twitter, and we wrote it together. I wrote the verse, and he lobbed me the hook, and because he didn't have vocals, I took it, and I'm glad that everyone can enjoy it.
Gotcha. All right, cool. So let's get into a little bit for people who don't know about you. Why don't you tell us how you started liking basketball, how you started liking the Blazers, and just your history as a fan?
Great. I get this question all the time because I feel like a lot of people have your experience, Steve, where they meet me and they're like, whoa, you're the biggest Blazer fan that I've ever met. What is wrong with you? And essentially, anyone who's from Portland is a Blazer fan. I feel like I can say that in general because for the longest time, right before the Timbers got there, the Portland Trail Blazers were the only professional sports team in Portland. Yep. And there's lots of reasons as to why there aren't professional sports teams there, mostly the weather, but anybody who's anybody would go to the Rose Garden and, grab pizza and a beer and just have a good time. And obviously, we're going to get into this later, we haven't won a championship in quite some time. Definitely not in my lifetime. And it doesn't look like in your lifetime. Your skin looks amazing, by the way.
That means a lot. Thank you.
We haven't won in a while, but I feel like to Blazers fans, that doesn't really matter because we're just loyal people. We're not fair weather fans. We just love what we love, and that's it. It doesn't matter if it sucks or if it doesn't, We're just happy to be here. We're here for a good time, not a long time, I feel. And that is how I would describe a Blazer fan in general.
Okay. So you obviously grew up in Portland, and that was, like you said, the only team. So you're just fuck it, this is my team.
Yeah. So I actually transplanted away from Portland at a pretty young age. I transplanted to California, grew up in the Bay Area, basically. And so a lot of Blazers Twitter will be like, Nila, you're not even from Portland. I'm like, yes, I am. I immigrated there, me and my family. I went to elementary school there, whatever. But I think it's because I grew up in Warriors in Dub Nation, and then now I live in Laker Nation, that made me all the more of a diehard fan. Does that make any sense to you? I think that's
because you see the different fan hoods and culture and shit like that, and you have stronger ties to where you're from and shit because that was the team you grew up liking. And even if it's elementary school, for me, I was a Knicks fan growing up, and I went a little off the ship. I was always a Knicks fan, but as soon as I saw Melo, I was he was my idol from a young age. But yeah, that's the team you grew up, and you always have I guess a place for, in your heart for them. And especially when I'm sure you get into you got into a ton of arguments with Warriors fans and Lakers, Clippers fans. Now, one thing kind of related to that, what have you noticed about, like, I'm sure you have a ton to say about this Warriors fan base, especially over the last, 5-6 years. What have you noticed about, like, that culture compared to, like, the Blazers culture in terms of, like, the fans, the organization, and just all that?
Right, that's a great question. I did grow up in San Jose. That's where I went to high school, which is like an hour away from San Francisco and Oakland. And then I lived in San Francisco for the 6 years that they actually got good. So I have a lot to say. So basically, the fans that were before 2016, I can't say shit about them. They are, right, like the whole We Believe era and before that, they are some of the most loyal fans in the NBA, which as a Blazer fan, I can totally respect. And I appreciate that underdog mentality that these fans have, and they've ridden with their team for years. However, the fans that come after 2016, the ones that are, they are all like, they trade your information and they all work at Oracle Arena and they have disposable incomes that I can't even fathom what to do with that type of money, but they just have the money and so they spend it on courtside seats. These fans are the ones that I love to talk to at the online and at the bar and whatever, because I just can't respect that, right? Like, as a Knicks fan and as a Blazer fan, I feel like we're not fair weather fans, basically. Like, we can't just like enjoy the highs. You have to be there through the lows in order to actually like be worthy of like enjoying the highs,
Right. Even if those lows are like 40 plus years.
Exactly.
We'll talk about. That makes sense. So as far as Blazers basketball goes, like, as an outsider, obviously I, have been rooting for the Blazers since Melo got there. They've always been like a team. I've heard a lot about the fans, like loyal fans, diehard fans, like what you just said. Only one team, that makes a lot of sense. What can you say about like the Blazers fans besides just like their diehards? And then like even the organization, because they seem like, as an outsider, to have a decent organization run well from like top to bottom. So what can you say to people who are not longtime Blazers fans about the team that like maybe we haven't realized in the past year and a half?
I really like what you said about how the organization as a whole, and then extending to the fan base, really seems like a well-oiled machine, basically. And I think that that's true. I mean, I don't know. I'm not an executive, or I don't work for the team. I don't know, but I do know, people who work for the team, and just like listening to even the interviews of some of the guys that have been in and out of Portland in the past decade or whatever, they just seem like they're happy there, and they seem like,
Yep.
From any NBA fan's perspective, it's a hard fight to get free agents to Portland. But once they're there, just like Melo, once they're there and they experience Damian Lillard's inclusive leadership, and they experience the amazing coaching staff, like just the welcoming fan base as well, I just, like, there's no beating it, I feel. And I think the one thing that I would say that to any, other hoops fan that doesn't really know Portland that well is we are the only ones who can talk shit about our own team. Like, we know, like, we're the first ones to say, Neil O'Shea is trash. Like, we haven't had a good offseason since he drafted CJ, like whatever. We're going to be the first ones to say stuff like that. We're going to be the first ones to like call Hassan Whiteside, rest in peace, his time in Portland is done, but Hassan Whiteside lazy. Like, you know what I mean? But then as soon as somebody else says anything, we are down their throats, like,
It's a wrap, yeah.
with a quickness. So that's a Portland fan to people who don't know.
Fair. That's interesting, because like when you're saying that, I'm thinking about like being a Knicks fan, and I'm sure you've seen how much the Knicks are went at by fucking fans, media, their own president, and like shit like that. So
that's the one thing about the difference between our two organizations, is that historically the Knicks have been such a prominent franchise in the NBA's history that, like, just seeing that stark difference from, you know, the past to now, it's easy to like slander and make fun of online and stuff. But with the Blazers, like that's not really been the case. We've always been kind of the dark horse, and probably always will be in my lifetime.
Yeah, that's fair. Let's get into a little the dark times of the Blazers organization. So, as we went over, I'm a Knicks fan, have been since a kid, grew up in New York and all that shit. So we haven't won a championship since 73. I looked up the Blazers just because I was curious, and it's 77, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So the Knicks, like, we know James Dolan has had a lot to do with why the Knicks haven't won, you know, making basketball decisions and then coming out later and saying, I guess I didn't know basketball, and just like unimaginable shit. What has not the excuse, but like, why haven't the Blazers won in such a long time? Has it been like, you know, being a small market team and not being able to bring in free agents? Is it an egotistical owner like the Knicks? Is it bad luck? Is it something else? Like, just try to paint that picture for people who are curious.
Right. The first thing that comes to mind is we definitely have not had an egotistical owner at all. Rest in peace, Paul Allen, but he has just been the most magical shining light for Portland in general, and in the time that he, you know, was alive, and he led us through all the, you know, peaks and valleys. So it's definitely not that. He actually, in my opinion, I think he threw way too much money into the Blazers overall, and that's how we got into these luxury tax situations over the years. It's just because he loved the team so much. He loves the city so much that's the case. But so that's definitely not the reason. I feel like if you were to ask any Blazer fan off the street why we haven't won yet, and, you know, why is Damian Lillard wasting his time, blah, 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 I think that anybody would tell you that we think that we're cursed.
Okay.
because think about all of the injuries that have happened to who we would want to be franchise players throughout the years, right? Like Greg Oden, Brandon Roy, and then you know, just like we have been plagued with injuries for decades since then. So we've been plagued with injuries. No one wants to come to Portland because it's a small market and this, that, or the other. And so the amalgamation of, I think, those two things are really the reason why we can't get help for Dame, and we can't, you know, we never make it past. Well, I mean, the 1 year, what was it? Was it? Yeah, last 2 seasons ago that we made it to the Western Conference Finals.
Last year, yeah.
That feels like a lifetime ago. That's why I asked him. Was that 2 years ago? But, you know, besides that, we never really make it past the first or second round. And also, I think geographically, being in the West is just, like, overall really, really tough. A curse upon us either by base god, Lil B, or basketball gods. Injuries plague us, and we're in the West.
Okay. Interesting. Trio. Yeah, you know, I think the injuries thing is really, I don't know, I guess people forget about it. Like, people forget that Brandon Roy is one of the best players in the NBA at one point, and like Greg Oden, like, you could say, like, people make fun of him, fine, but like, he was the second pick. Oh, sorry, he was the first pick or the second pick? First pick, right?
He was the first all-around pick, yeah.
He was the first pick for a reason. Like, he was drafted right in front of Durant and shit for a reason. So, I don't know, like, for things like this, and again, I'm just like comparing, like, whenever you talk, I think of the Knicks in my mind, like that 2013 season we had 7 years ago when, like, injuries were a part, and like, be like, oh, it's an excuse. It's like, well, when Brandon Roy is one of your best players and like one of the best players in the league, and like he has a career-ending injury and like he just can't go on, it's like, that's not an excuse. Like, that's like a legit reason, like, why. And obviously they invested a shit ton of money in him, and they probably built around him and all that shit. So you were banking on him to be that guy, and then he doesn't, and it's like, and you correct me if I'm wrong, but you almost have to like restart.
Yeah, that's basically it. You should look up the stat. It's something crazy. In the total amount of games that Greg Oden, Brandon Roy, and LaMarcus Aldridge played together, they dominated the league. And just imagine if that were to be years long, you know?
Yeah.
The stat is crazy. I don't remember it right now, but it's wild.
Interesting. All right, let's get to Melo. You know, everyone listening was kind of waiting for this moment, but obviously, you know, the whole point of this podcast is there was this narrative around Melo that was like keeping him out of the league, and you know, everyone was like, oh, he could still play. He came back, obviously proved it. So I'm curious as to what your perception of Melo was before he got to Portland, and how did that change, if at all, when he signed with the team and you got to like see him play for your favorite team?
Right. I totally I can't respect the fact that there are actually people in the national media had the audacity to say that Carmelo Anthony like was done in this league. That's absolutely ridiculous, obviously. And he just, I think it's one of those situations where, listen, we're talking about not a literal, but a GOAT in this league. And he's just looking for a home. He's looking for a chance. And if you just think about how many people out there in this world have so much to give, like whether that be talent wise or, you know, whatever, that just don't have a chance, it's such a waste to when you actually think about how many people aren't given a chance to do and carry out like their vocation or whatever they have to offer the world, you know? It's just ridiculous. So that's how I feel about Melo, is that I think that it was always meant to be this way, that Melo was meant to be in Portland and him and Dame are gonna win a ring together. Oh,
that's right.
We can dream.
Right. So like, did you buy into that at all? Like that he was washed at all? Because it sounds like no, because a lot of people believe that, obviously. So you weren't one of those people who were like, yeah, he is washed and shit like that for that year long that he was out?
No, definitely not. Never crossed my mind that way.
Respect. All right, so you just quickly previewed it. I didn't even have this down, but Melo and Dame winning a ring together, which would be crazy because, like, you look at it, and those are two loyal fucking people, almost to a fault. Like, Melo spent all those years in New York with Jose Calderon and Sasha Vujic as his starting backcourt on, like, opening day, and then you look at Dame, and, you know, has he ever played with an all-star in his career?
Yeah, so it was Dame and LaMarcus Aldridge. They were supposed to be our future. But LMA, you know, wanted to be close to family, and so he is ending his career with the Spurs, which is fine. I'm not salty at all about it. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
But I think that was the only other All-Star that Dame has played with.
All right, so too loyal. Let's go with to a fault, guys. What do you think of this season? Obviously, the Lakers seem like they've gotten better. We talked about it a little last week, but what do you think of the Blazers' chances in this West when, like, obviously, you know, every single year from, like, 1 to 8, they're legit teams?
Right. Well, first of all, since the offseason is coming to an end, I just wanted to echo what y'all said on the pod last week, where the Blazers have had a tremendous offseason. And it seems like this is the first offseason that Neil O'Shea has not let me down in so long. And I think that a lot of Blazers fans listening can agree. To other Hoops fans, it might not seem like a lot, but to us, our bench has probably never been deeper. I think and I think you guys said it this last week, the only position that we're still lacking in is the point guard position, obviously. But let's see.
Like, you think we beat the Lakers?
I mean, why do you do this to me, Steve?
Because that's what it comes down to at the end of the day. You see them, and I'm saying we because I'm part of the team, even if it's temporarily. I hope that you accept me and all the other bandwagoners.
Hey, listen, to anyone, if anyone out there is listening, I don't know who listens to your pods, but if anyone is out there, the Blazers bandwagon is wide open. We are willing and ready to accept you. We're a nice group. Just come on in, you know, come in for the virtual group hug. Like, we're here. Come on, root for Melo and Dame. You can't go wrong rooting for these two guys.
Yeah,
right?
You really can. We're definitely going to put that out there. So I'm sure people will see that. Hopefully they hop on board. Because you you are the lead bandwagoner, not bandwagoner, but you're the head of the bandwagon, and you are accepting all of us. So that's all that matters. But so I'm going back to it. Lakers, Blazers,
Right.
Western Conference Finals. What do you think?
As a diehard Blazer fan, obviously my answer is yes. Like, we're going all the way, but
Always.
but you know, you get on NBA Twitter and people think that Blazers fans are delusional for some reason, and I'm just like, I don't see it. I don't know what world you're living in, but in my reality, if I don't think that my own team is the best team in the entire league, then like, what am I doing? You know?
Fair. And
like, I'm supposed to think that.
And you know what else is like even worse than like not thinking that is it drives me fucking crazy when people like say this and feel like this, but when you like watch a game and like especially for Knicks, we've had such heartbreak over the fucking years, and I'm not talking like Western Conference Finals, I'm talking like game 11 when, you know, Giannis hits a buzzer beater or some bullshit like that. But when people watch the game and they're like, oh, whatever, the Knicks are gonna lose or the Blazers are gonna lose anyway, like I'm not even gonna watch them. I'm like, why even like call yourself a fan if that's like the mentality you're going? Like, that's not fun. The whole point of sports is like supposed to root for a team and it's supposed to be fun, but people like, you know, I'm not gonna watch them, they're gonna lose, they suck, and like just this negativity, and I'm just like, don't watch it, don't talk about it. Like,
no, definitely, I totally agree with you. The fans that leave, you know, early, like 3 minutes before the end of the fourth, it's like, what are you do? Like, why are you even here? Just, you should have gone home 2 hours ago, buddy.
Yeah. All right. We just talked about someone close to my heart. Let's talk about someone close to your heart, Rasheed Wallace. Don't know if you knew this. You probably do if he's your favorite player, but he is the originator of the 3 to the dome. Did you know that?
Yes, I did know that.
I figured you would know that. Why is he your favorite player ever? And just like, tell us about your love for Rasheed.
Wow. If you gave me like 2 hours, I could talk about this for the entire length of that time. But I'm going to try to keep it short. So essentially, I learned about Rasheed after the Jailblazers era and all that, right? Like after he had already, because like I'm only 28, so I didn't really get to watch him when he was actually in the league. Right. But as soon as YouTube came around and I was able to like actually see what all the fuss about, I was able to read the Jailblazers book. Like, the fact that this man could receive a technical just by a single look and not even say a word to motherfuckers is amazing to me. Like, that's how I live, Steve. All right? Like, I don't know. Okay, I'm obviously a dramatic person. I grew up in the theater. But that is what sold. I was like, damn. That's how I like, because every day, right? Like, I'll be going about my life and I'll be teed up just by a look too. Not actually, but you know. And so that's what I really like. I fell in love with the attitude. I fell in love with the unapologetic Sheed-ness of him. Yep. And like to this day, he always just seems like, right? Because he has a podcast now too. He just seems like a genuine, just normal person. And I respect that about how like he had so much notoriety and so many, you know, people yapping about who he was and what he should be doing and all this stuff. But he's sort of like MJ, where like he doesn't give a crap. Like, he's just gonna do him, you know? And I respect that. That's why I love him.
Yeah, that's dope. We had him for a short stint that 1 year in New York, 2012, 2013, when he had one of his ball don't lie moments, said it, and I got teed up for the second time, got 2 technicals in maybe like legit 45 seconds. I remember I was at college, like dorming with my friend. He went to the bathroom and he came back and Rasheed was ejected, like, swear to God, true story. So just like little things like that. Yeah, very unapologetically himself. So he definitely, I don't know if you remember, but like when he was in New York very, very early on, the crowd was like chanting his name for him to come off the bench and Woodson put him in. It's a great video of like the Knicks were up like 20, one of the only years they were good. in the last 20 years. But true legend for sure.
Such a legend, and I feel like we could all live that way, you know? Take after him.
For sure. All right, Nila. Well, we've come to the end of this podcast. Been going for 25 minutes now. At the end of every podcast, we allow our guests to kind of control a narrative. It could be Rasheed Wallace related, basketball related, literally anything you want. So I'm going to give you the floor and let you control a narrative.
Okay, so I don't know if I can take this intellectual property or not, but I feel like a lot of people who maybe they don't even have to be Blazers fans. They could just be like logical human beings. I feel, and the reason why I bring this up, the whole intellectual property thing up, is because this tweet just went viral recently, and it's by @Nathan Mikil X. I am totally butchering the @ but just look up Damian Lillard on Twitter and you'll see. This person went viral and they said that Damian Lillard isn't wasting his career in Portland at all. He's a perennial all-star NBA player, and his family is wealthy for generations, which is true. His whole family they picked up their roots in Oakland and they all live in Portland now. His brother has this very successful youth football camp in Portland that had, they just opened this huge gym. He has, his estate there. He has his mom there. He has his kid there, his future wife there. Everyone who's close to him lives in Portland now. And it all started right after his first year in the league. Mm-hmm. And so that's the narrative that I want to control, is that Dame is definitely not wasting his time there. I feel like the people who are wasting their time are the players that are not getting their paycheck and just spent riding the bench just to get a ring. You know what I mean?
Yep.
What else can I say about this topic? Dame obviously loves his hometown of Oakland, Brookfield to be exact, but he also loves Portland and he always gives back to Portland. And that's something that I really, really respect about him, is always giving back to the community in any way that he can. Specifically not in flashy ways. He'll just tweet out that he has a bunch of Dame fives to give to the community. Everybody pull up to this location and it's a park, and he'll literally have a U-Haul truck that he just rented, and he'll be giving out shoes at the park to just local kids, and that's just the best. You can't get better than a role model like Dame. So again, a person who, like Sheed, is unapologetically himself. He does not care whether you like him or not, whether you think his decisions are correct or not. He's in his bag, his family's in their bag, and he's having a great grand old time. And just like Portland fans, he's an extremely loyal person. So the culture's there. We're just vibing. We're just vibing all the way until he retires. And so Lakers fans can suck it, because he'll never become a Laker.
Nicely said. And on top of all that, they're competing. It's not like he's doing all this on a shitty team, and even if he was, so fucking what? But they're competing. They were just in the conference finals last year. So yeah, for people who say, oh, Dame never won a ring, Melo never won a ring, they want to win a ring where they want to win a ring. They Melo said one time, one in New York is worth multiple other elsewhere. I'm sure Dame thinks the same thing about Portland. So yeah, I think people forget that sometimes. It's they only look at the championships, because obviously everyone talks about Jordan 6, LeBron 4, all this shit. It's for all the reasons you just said. His family's there. He seems to love fucking Portland. He's loyal to it and shit. So I think I don't know. I guess people just forget about that aspect of where players want to play. But
yeah, it's about way more than just a ring.
Right.
Obviously.
For sure. All right, Nila. Well, I appreciate your time more than you know. Why don't you drop your @Nila Madison, right?
Yep, I'm @Nila Madison on all platforms, but especially Venmo and Cash App. No, I'm joking. I'm totally joking. Yes, at Nila Madison everywhere. And then if you are willing and able, tomorrow is Giving Tuesday. I would really appreciate it if y'all checked out at Want Not Need Fund, also on all platforms, and just check out what they're doing. I think that it's a really, really good concept and just a loving thing to do for the community, especially during these hard times. So also at Want Not Need Fund, that I would really appreciate it.
This is coming out on Wednesday, so it'll be a day after. But like real quick, like what are they doing?
So Want Not Need Fund, it was started by two of my friends. One is an activist and one is an advocate, soon to be activist. And basically, it's a foundation that takes, for example, my wants, like for example, if I wanted a $7 latte from Starbucks, take that $7 and I turn it into somebody else's need. So this money, they rotate the organizations every 2 weeks, I believe, but all the information about the actual grassroots organizations and organizers and activists that are on the ground doing the human rights work is all like laid out for you, so you know exactly where your money is going every week. And it's to enforce this habit, not enforce, but like to foster this habit of turning things that you want but you don't really need, and you can turn that dollar amount, like whatever it may be, $7, $20, into something that can actually like greatly improve a marginalized community. So that's the whole idea behind Want Not Need Fund, and I just love that idea, and I think that anybody who knows about it will too.
That's dope. For those watching on YouTube, the links to Nila's social will be in the description, as well as a link to, I'm guessing they have a website.
Yep, they do.
So we'll link that if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, at Want Not Need, right?
At Want Not Need Fund.
Fund, gotcha.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, well, Nila, again, appreciate your time, and I'll definitely be keeping an eye out for that next Melo vid whenever you drop it.
Yes. Thanks so much again for having me. Thanks everyone for listening.